Today on Locked On Red Wings, a weekend sweep has the Red Wings 2 games over 500 and with an YZERMAN era high 7-game win streak.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University, ACHA D1 men's hockey. And Scotty, 7-game win streak. That is an YZERMAN era high. Both wins in comfortable fashion over opponents that you should win comfortably over. So we have nothing but positive vibes as the Red Wings continue to climb up the standings. We're going to talk about both games here in this game, the 5-3 victory over Chicago and the 6-1 drubbing of the Seattle Kraken, both at LCA. So get ready for a fun episode. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, Scotty, we got a lot to get to. 2 games to cover. Here in segment 1, we are going to try and combine our difference makers. It'll be a weekend difference maker, a weekend first thought before breaking in the notable performers for both games. Scotty, initially, what is your first thought here as we round out the weekend with 2 W's?
Let's keep winning. Honestly, I mean that is my first thought after every game at this point. Is just like, okay, great win, keep the streak going, go take the next one too. And after the Chicago game, that was my first thought. They went out and they won, just dismantled Seattle. We'll obviously break that down a little bit more. And then now they play San Jose, who's one of the worst teams in the NHL. So I mean, you got a real chance to go on an 8-game winning streak here, and that was my first thought. I'm sure was many people's first thought after this one.
Right, and for the record, this was my first thought: is what's their franchise high winning streak? Where's their winning streak at all time? And it's 9 games, which they've done 7 times.
So surprising, though. Like
right.
The fact that they've done it 7 times, I guess. Like there you go. But like the Detroit Red Wings have never won 10 games in a row. That's wild to me.
And that's according to records.nhl.com. That's the official website. They've done it 9 times, most recently in 08, before that in 07, before that in 06, and then before that in 96. So right, a lot of it right in the height of the Red Wings dynasty.
You say?
I'm just saying, if they get to 9-game win streak, I mean, it's fate at that point, right? Like
the comparisons are there.
The streets are saying that there are comparables between the 2025 Detroit Red Wings and the 2008 Detroit Red Wings. We're not saying it, but the people are saying it. The streets. The streets are saying. But yeah, I mean, my first thought was this team's getting dangerously close to a franchise record, and they have one more game that, in our opinion, is a win. Like a winnable game, I should say, not a win. But the San Jose Sharks are the second worst team in the league behind the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I think the gap there is actually pretty substantial because the Chicago Blackhawks have just Bedard, but the San Jose Sharks have a couple extra pieces that are actually NHL players outside of Celebrini. So and we've already lost to him once this season. We lost to him once last season. Don't underestimate the San Jose Sharks and how hard they'll play, but it's at LCA. It's an opportunity to have an 8-game win streak, which was incredible thought. So my first thought is there's an opportunity here for the Red Wings to tie that franchise record at 9, just 2 wins away. Difference maker on this game, Scotty, what do you got?
Well, we're doing weekend, right?
For the weekend. What's your difference maker for the weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of easy to just point count and just kind of lean that way, but I'm going to go with Patrick Kane, man. He had a 5-point weekend. 5-point weekend, 4 apples and a goal on Sunday. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to say the passing is what's so good. No kidding, right? Everybody who has even remotely watched the game of hockey over the last, decade plus is very aware that Patrick Kane is a phenomenal passer, but it has been exemplified, I feel like, over the last 10 to 12 games. And he's really found a groove. And it's nice for a lot of reasons, no more than probably just the point production itself that this team kind of desperately needed at the beginning of the year. But to see the worry that we had earlier in the year surrounding, what is the future of Patrick Kane's production going to look like, because he's not producing. Like, there isn't really in the score sheet for him on a night-to-night basis. And now, they showed a graphic, during the broadcast, FanDuel Sports Network showed a graphic during the broadcast, and it was the points leaders in the NHL over 2 weeks, and the top 3 were what was it, Larkin, Cat, Kane? Literally
Cat, Raymond, Kane.
Raymond, yeah. Literally, that is a testament to the production there, obviously. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Showtime, and it's very easy again, just because a 5-point weekend is pretty incredible. But he was great, and I think the really reassuring thing is it's not. He doesn't only look good on the power play, which was a worry earlier in the year too, that he was just going to become this, pseudo power play specialist. And while there's still obviously a lot of his production is on the power play, I think that you are seeing more and more kind of the whole ice open up for him, which is clearly going a long way and hopefully continues to do so.
Yeah, and so you mentioned, by the way, that's 13 points in 7 games for Patrick Kane now after the 5-point weekend. But you mentioned they're the 3-point leaders since Christmas, right? Or since the 29th when the Red Wings started this win streak. That's Raymond, Cat, and Kane. And my question to you, Scotty, is when do those 3 players play on the ice together?
Yeah, the power play, yeah.
And that is my difference maker. Right. It's been my difference maker for all 7 games. And I'm sure people are tired of me saying the difference maker is the power play.
Yeah, but it's fair.
Right, like they only scored 1 power play goal against the Blackhawks, and they went 3 for 5.
Those absolute slobs. Only 1 power play goal.
So that's 4 for 9 on the weekend, and I think coming into the weekend they were 10 for 19. So that makes them 14 for 28, if my math is right, and that's the big if, which would give them a 50% power play percentage since this win streak has began. That is. How could it not be the difference maker in any given win right now when they're running a 50% power play since McClellan has taken over? That is absolutely absurd. Actually, I think that tracks back to the Toronto game too. So it's there's not much more you can say. The puck movement is spectacular. It continues to be spectacular. Alex DeBrincat isn't missing the net this year, which is crazy. Patrick Kane is backdoor looking for passing lanes, and he's finding them or receiving them. Dylan Larkin's in the bumper position, and he's burying pucks. Although this game, his buried puck came at 5-on-5. Lucas Raymond, along the flank, is moving around and creating space. Like, it's just that power play has been clicking on every single possible measure. That it almost feels like it. While it's not sustainable to maintain a 50% clip on the power play, it does not feel unsustainable when you watch them out there playing.
Right.
3 power play goals against the Kraken, and they made it look easy. That's insane.
Yeah, and they're almost up to 30% on the year. I think they're just shy of 30% on the year at the moment. So yeah, man.
Yeah, like 28%. They're second in the NHL currently in overall power play percentage. That's on the year. Because remember, it was already a top 10.
Well, even when they were losing, it was they were still like 8th. They were still
It's just I'm so sorting by right now just to double check. They're at 28.6% on the power play. How could that not be a difference maker? And I had 2 difference makers written down, and Patrick Kane was my other one. Like you said, 3 assists against the Blackhawks. Alex DeBrincat had a goal and assist as well. The 2 former Chicago Blackhawks. Eric Gustafsson had a goal. Did he have a goal and an assist, or just a?
Well, he had a goal on Sunday. Yeah,
getting it twisted. But he had an assist against the Blackhawks as well. So former Blackhawks lighten up the Blackhawks. You hate to see it. Just
it's too bad, man.
Right.
Bad.
So we'll talk more about the Blackhawks game here in segment 2 as we get to our notable performers from that game. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need to place live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. That one was for
You're
you,
the
Scotty.
worst.
Yeah. I saw you struggling there with the...
Dude, we had behind the scenes, all right, peek behind the curtain here. We had some I mean, as people can tell watching on YouTube, we had some formatting changes, which look fantastic and I'm pumped about. But you know, now we got stuff in different places. We got whole new options that weren't even available before. I am completely in over my head here. So it's gonna take a little bit.
It doesn't look like we have the proper layout for the ad reads. So.
That's what I was alluding to without saying, yes.
All right. So we'll just let's keep it in this window for break 2 when we get there. But anyways,
oh, you want to keep me on screen?
Why wouldn't we? I mean, you are the face of the show.
That's not good for us. That's really, really bad for us if I'm the face of the show.
Still an improvement over the
No, you're the head of the show.
You got the biggest head of us all.
That's true.
Scotty, segment
yours
2.
Yours is shiny, mine's large. It's great.
Together we are large and shiny. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings. Scotty, notable performers from the Chicago Blackhawks game. Obviously, we noted Patrick Kane and the power play as our difference makers. That continues for this game and the second game as well. But outside of that, who else you got?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different directions you can go for both of these games. I do want to talk about Cat a little bit. I mean, you mentioned before the break there that obviously he scored, but just continues to be on an absolute tear. And it's been pretty consistent throughout the year. Like the fact that he has had the year that he has had, I think is so massive for this team. And for someone who really kind of took it in the teeth last year from the fan base, right? Like this was a fan base that was incredibly critical of DeBrincat and his production a year ago. I don't think that the support has been as loud as the hate was. And I think that is that's not fair to him. Like for he really got dragged through the ringer last year by this fan base. And while I think we're all acknowledging that his production has been way up and it's been fantastic, I'm not sure it's been as loud as the slander was a year ago. So I want to give him a ton of credit because I think that is absolutely one of the biggest reasons that they were even remotely able to keep their heads above water during the end of the Lalonde era. And now you're seeing him just, kind of explode in terms of production now that the rest of the team is kind of firing on all cylinders too.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a 4-point weekend in his own right, a goal and an assist in both games.
Mm-hmm.
His finishing ability, the Patrick Kane passed to him against the Blackhawks. So that was a blown line change by the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
DeBrincat got in behind the defense.
There was a couple of those. Yeah, not great.
I mean, the Blackhawks aren't very good. But he rifled it home, didn't miss the net, didn't hit the post. He scored his goal. And then right there in the same, the low slot to the circle on the power play, on the second game against the Kraken, he buried it. And a nice pass by Moritz Seider, too. He drew Grubauer away from the post, fed DeBrincat, and he fired it short side. Didn't miss the net, didn't hit the post. Like, that was one of the guys that Yzerman was talking about in the offseason, right? About guys who are going to get back on the score. And he scored, 26, 27 last year, even with his poor luck. And this year he's on pace for 35, which is exactly the wheelhouse we want Alex DeBrincat to be in. So, yeah, absolutely huge notable performer in these games. I want to give a shout out. I'm going to go with a younger player. Albert Johansson, Scotty, scored his first NHL goal against the Chicago Blackhawks and almost had his first multi-point game against the Seattle Kraken. He did until he didn't, because they credited that first goal that they initially credited to Larkin. Johansson would have gotten the secondary assist on, but then in the third period, they gave that goal to Casper, who was on the screen. So it retroactively took away one of his assists, but he had what ended up being the game-winning goal, rather, against the Chicago Blackhawks on just a beautiful feed from Lucas Raymond. Backhand cross crease through traffic, just gorgeous. But a great finish by Albert Johansson, who in both of these games, Scotty, has continued to grow and not just these games, but since he's been paired up with Edvinsson, the confidence he's been growing with, given responsibility, has been incredible. Like, before I was saying things like he's looking better, he's playing amicably, given, the situation that they're in and what's being asked of him. And these last 2 games, again, you take into who they're playing into account, but that's still big responsibility for a rookie, especially playing with a guy on the other side who's in his, for all intents and purposes, rookie season as well. He looked really good against the Kraken and the Blackhawks. And you can feel the confidence growing with Albert Johansson. He's stepping up in the play. I think they mentioned that against the Kraken, where he's being more offensive-minded. His passing is getting better in the offensive zone. Overall, he's looking much better, and I'm happy he got that first career goal, and it looks like it's starting to snowball for him, as he did have 2, then 1 assist against the Kraken. So Albert Johansson, just huge shout out. I think analytically speaking, one of these games, he was at the top too. Yeah. So against the Blackhawks, he had the 4th best, the best amongst defensemen, Corsi for percentage at 66%, and then his expected goals for percentage against the Blackhawks was 67% as well. Now, Red Wings overall dominated that game at 5-on-5, so everyone was looking pretty good. But that was a great game by Johansson.
Yeah, man, and I mean, we don't have to bark up that tree again. I mean, we talked about that a little bit last week, but just the what?
I just looked at the Kraken, and he led the team at 5-on-5 in expected goals for percentage and Corsi for percentage, so it just doubles down on what I was saying.
Right, yeah. It's one of those things where if he is able to be a everyday, really at any pair, right? It doesn't matter. If he's just an everyday contributor for this team going forward, that's a big win, and that would go a really long way for this organization. So, yeah, we'll obviously continuing to root for him, but the fact that he has, I don't want to say like turned a corner, right? Like we'll see how the production goes, but if he is able to be that solidified, even if it is just the 3rd pair guy, that would help the organization out a lot.
Absolutely. Scotty, no other notable performers. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, man, we can kind of talk about him in both games, so maybe this is a little bit of cheating, but like Marco Kasper, man, really, really solid on, what was that? Friday was the Chicago game, right? Really solid there. And it's funny because they talked about on the broadcast on Sunday, the fact that, it was similar to Larkin, or they're hoping that it's similar to Larkin in the sense where he wasn't producing very much. He scored a goal, and then the rest are just going to keep pouring on. And as they were having that conversation, he scored again against the Kraken. So, yeah, he walks out of this weekend with 4 points. That's incredible, right? This is a guy that we've been talking about for weeks now, is, young up-and-comer, really sound defensively, playing really smart, kind of that lower event hockey, but not producing a whole lot. And as far as points go. And so to see him have a 4-point weekend and see him able to really just take advantage of some lesser opponents there, I think could go a long way. And I'm hoping continues to kind of just carry the momentum forward for him.
Absolutely. God dang it. I hesitated and I still said it, but I agree 100% with those sentiments. And for the sake of brevity and getting to other guys, let's move on from there. Completely, of course, agree with Marco Kasper, everything that you said. As far as the game against the Blackhawks go, my other notable performer was just the top line in general, just absolutely dominated. So kind of an expansion upon the Marco Kasper point. They led the team in Corsi for percentage at almost an 80% clip. Their expected goals for percentage was nearly 90%. They skated circles around the Chicago Blackhawks, as they should, because, again, the Blackhawks are the worst team in the league. But just because they're the worst team in the league and you dominated them, that's not a bad thing. That is a really positive sign, because less than a month ago, this team struggled to play toe-to-toe with the worst teams in hockey. And now you're beating them up, and you look like the team you should look like, a wild card contender, and you're right in the mix. So, and that goes beyond the first line, right? Like, obviously the first line dominated the stat sheet, but overall, the team as a whole, this is their most dominating 5-on-5% performance of the year. Like, it wasn't just, it's a little bit different with the Seattle Kraken game, right? Like, they dominated the score sheet and won 6-2, but at 5-on-5, they were dominated. Now, I have an explanation for that. I would not worry about that. This is one of those kind of outlier situations where don't worry too much about the 5-on-5 statistics, because you scored 4 goals on 6 shots against Seattle. But the Chicago game, like, I think maybe the first 20 minutes of that hockey game, you started out a little sluggish, got out of that period, tied 1-1, even though you had the edge in shots just barely. But then you go into the second period, you outshoot them 16-2. In the third period, it continues. Like, that was a dominating. The expected goals for percentage for the Blackhawks in the second period was 6%. They had 6% of the expected goals in the second period because you dominated a worse team. So that was a really encouraging 5-on-5 performance by the Red Wings. And in the second game, which we'll get to here in segment 3, it wasn't the same case, but there is a very reasonable explanation for that, and I would not sweat it at all. So stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings coming up. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were planning to pay, that you were paying for twice, not that you were planning to pay for twice, but found out that you were? That definitely happens to all of us. You have a few subscriptions you didn't even realize that you were still paying for, and Rocket Money makes it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in cancel subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedonnhl today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, let's transition. I dropped my pen. I had to pick it up real fast. Let's transition now into the game against the Seattle Kraken, Scotty. I kind of teased it, talking about how the 5-on-5 game was a little bit different, but not to worry about it. The Red Wings scored 4 goals on 6 shots. So, understandably, when you score 4 goals with ease like that, the onus is not on you then to keep your foot on the pedal. Obviously, you should as long as you can. I thought the Red Wings did a decent job in this hockey game of staying competitive throughout the entire thing. But then, obviously, the Kraken are going to try and push as early as they can to get themselves back in this game. And that's why if you look and you see, oh, the Kraken dominated 61% at expected goals for, and 54% at Corsi for, I don't care. Like, yeah, it's the first game in the McClellan area.
Someone clipped that? Clip Brian saying he doesn't care about Corsi?
See, it's one of those things, and I know you're cracking a joke. It's funny, haha, Scotty. But it's like one of those things where it needs to be supplemental, right? And I'm trying to get better at it myself, not just looking at that purely. Because if you watch this game, it makes sense.
Right.
They scored 4 on 6. So, of course, then the Seattle are going to be trying desperately to get themselves back into this hockey game. And then, so they're going to be shooting everywhere.
Well, like, just possession doesn't come a priority when you're up 4-0 and you're taking 6 shots. Yeah. So, for sure. Something that they have been better at. We still want them to improve at. This game kind of doesn't really count toward any of those possession metrics we want to take a look at, though. This was a really, really weird game, but a weird game that the Red Wings dominated from start to finish. There was a goalie change like 5 minutes into the game. The wildest part is like by goal like 3, 4, 5, like we aren't even talking about like, oh, like he just beat the goalie or whatever. Like we're talking like the whole net is just wide open and they're just standing in front of the net.
Kane's goal?
Yeah, dude, like Patrick Kane's goal. There was no one. He was by himself in front of the net. The goal, like yeah. So like again, a testament to the offense doing really well. Again, I mean, if you want to talk about notable performances, another hot start for a team that has just been getting hot starts pretty much every single game in the McClellan era. And clearly this was the hottest of hot starts.
It just came so easy to them in this hockey game. Like they barely had to try. You know, you look back at that first goal, the one that eventually got credited to Marco Kasper. Lucas Raymond comes in off the bench, streaks into the zone, a nice little backwards feed by Albert Johansson, and he just skates around the entire zone, looking, finds Larkin, scores. So easy. The second goal by JT Compher. You win the faceoff, give it back to the blue line. Give it back to Albert Johansson, who gives it to the flank along Tarasenko. Tarasenko shoots, deflected, score. The third goal, by the way, that was 2 goals in 11 seconds. And then Alex DeBrincat, the power play goal, right? They win the faceoff back to Sider. He's looking, finds DeBrincat, scores. Patrick Kane's goal. Now that one, Andrew Kopp hustled for. And Mickey Redmond, and I think it was Mickey Redmond, brought this up on the broadcast, where in the past, with the Lalonde era, because it was at the end of the shift, Kopp would have just dumped it and changed. But instead, he saw an opportunity to streak up the wing. He carried the puck into the zone and had a nice, beautiful cross-ice spin-around pass to find Eric Gustafsson, and an even better pass by Eric Gustafsson to find Patrick Kane just sitting there wide open back door. But, like, that was a bad change by the Kraken, left Kane completely unattended back door, and it was a great look by Eric Gustafsson. So, like, everything, those first 4 goals, like even Gustafsson's power play goal, so you want to count the 5th goal, it came so easy. The Larkin's power play goal, like, he was just sitting out front. He was like 2 feet in front of the goaltender. It was just every single goal came so easy to him today.
Zero resistance, man. And I think that, I mean, again, you mentioned the power play at the top of the show. 3 power play goals in this hockey game for the Detroit Red Wings. They did allow a goal on the penalty kill in this one. I wanted to give credit, actually. They did not record a single penalty against the Blackhawks. That was a 0 PIMS performance. So gave up just the 1 penalty kill goal, 1 whatever. The opponent was on the power play. Only their penalty kill only gave up 1 goal on the weekend, which is always nice. But yeah, man, I mean, offensively, it just, like, none of these stats matter to me. Like, they got outshot by 11. I don't care. Like, yeah, because they stopped shooting after, like, their 7th shot on net. They just stopped shooting. Everyone was pretty much great. Patrick Kane, multiple points. Casper, multiple points. Larkin, multiple points. DeBrincat with a goal. Comfer with the good goal. You mentioned the Kopp assist already. Raymond with multiple assists. Tarasenko with multiple assists. Like, Gustafsson, multiple points. Like, I mean, it was, yeah, just absolute utter domination, and most of those were after the first period alone. So,
as far as notable performers going in this game, Scotty, I did want to shout out Eric Gustafsson. He is starting to heat up with the Detroit Red Wings, and his deployments haven't really changed, right? Like, he's getting the same deployments as he was with Derek Lalonde, which is, the softest in the league. But it feels like he's playing with so much more swagger, so much more confidence under Todd McClellan, and I think a lot of that has to do with the change in the approach that the team has. He's playing effing hockey, and I know that sounds like cheap to say, but that's 3. He had a 3-point weekend himself. He had a second goal of the season with the Detroit Red Wings as well in the power play in this. That was the Red Wings' 5th goal of the game. So, that's still not a ton. That's still 11 points on the season, but if this team's going to make a legitimate push to the playoffs, you need your second power play quarterback to start scoring goals or get assists, and 3 points in a weekend is a great way to start. So I'm hoping that I can, in the next couple days, go from Gus is heating up to Gus stays hot.
Right. Yeah, and something you mentioned there, I think is really a team-wide thing that I've noticed, which is confidence. I know it's super cliche and kind of like cheesy and corny to say, but like, you watch this team and the passing is so different, and the, like, getting to a spot like we talk about all the time, and just the skating, like it really does look like the decisions look more intentional and concise and concrete, right? It's not just like, we're going based on game flow, or like, we're going to wait for this to happen to set up this kind of thing. It is we have possession of the puck, we are in control, let's make something happen type of hockey. And the last 2 games were against bottom dweller teams that needs to be said too. These are 2 of the I don't know if I want to use the word worst, but like, they are 2 of the worst teams in the NHL so far this season. So that's important to remember. But really, across the entire winning streak here, like, it is noticeable. Like, it is noticeably different how, again, like, really just intentional all of the decisions and passes and everything is now, because it really didn't look like it. It looks like they were second guessing everything there when they were losing a lot. So I think that's a really big difference, and that's a thought I had while watching this game for sure.
Yeah, that's the confidence, the freedom they play with right now. Like, just trusting their instincts, shooting the puck a lot. It's immaculate, and eventually it's going to end. and then the real work will begin, right? That's what we keep saying. But that's why getting these wins now and stacking them as high as they can before things get tough again on you is so important. My final thing that I wanted to bring up is in terms of this game was Cam Talbot's performance. Now, he had kind of a rough one, to be honest, against the Chicago Blackhawks. He had 3 goals on like 15 shots or something like that.
Yeah, the save percentage is kind of ugly, yeah.
It was 3 goals on 15 shots, actually. In fact, I guessed, and I got that right. Had an 800 save percentage in that game, and then against the Seattle Kraken, he had just 2 goals on 33, and the Seattle Kraken in the third period and the second period were pushing hard to try to close the gap, and he did a really nice job. The 2 goals he allowed, he was just hung out to dry on, just defensive breakdowns. And so that was a .930 save percentage. I think his goals saved above expected were .28 in that game. So it was a nice bounce back game by Cam Talbot. I'm happy to see that, and just, keep it rolling, man. We got Alex Lyons getting closer to being able to come back. He's day-to-day. I think I heard that he had skated during the practice on Saturday. So he's getting closer, but even though, you saw Ville Husso, and, we know that last time he was up, he played pretty strong. He's been great in Grand Rapids. Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about the goaltending situation right now, as you've stated numerous times.
Yeah, no, I'm ready to ride the wave of really whatever comes this team's way in terms of goaltending. I think that there's a lot more depth and confidence in that position than I really ever thought I would have, to be completely honest with you.
Yep. The Red Wings end the weekend 2 games above 500, 2 games above 500 points percentage-wise, I should say. They're 20-18-4. They sit 6th in the Atlantic Division, which sounds near the bottom, but in reality, they are right in the mix. They are, I believe, just 1 point back. They're tied in points with the Montreal Canadiens and 1 point behind the Ottawa Senators, 2 points behind the Boston Bruins, and 5 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. And now in terms of wild card, there's other teams you have to contend with. So let's take a peek at that. It's an absolute mess right now. So you're outside looking in against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who sit 46 points right now. You're at 44 points. The Ottawa Senators, as I previously stated, have 1 point on you at 45. And you have the current tiebreaker on Montreal and Pittsburgh, who you're tied with at points at 44 because you have more regulation wins than the Montreal Canadiens and less games played than the Pittsburgh Penguins. So those are the tiebreakers. First is games played, and then regulation wins, and you have both of those against those 2 teams. So you're the second team on the outside looking in 2 points back of a wild card spot.
Heck yeah, baby.
Heck yeah. And one, it does kind of stink that you're on a 7-game winning streak, the longest winning streak of the YZERMAN era, and you're still on the outside looking in. It kind of shows how big the hole was. But there is nothing you can do about that now, right? What's done is done. All you can do is take care of your business.
Dang right.
Got more business to take care of on Tuesday against the San Jose Sharks. We'll preview that game tomorrow, so stay tuned for that one. Scotty, final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. As previously stated, this is just how I end episodes, so it's muscle memory. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.